Hi everybody, and thanks for joining me today. So I'm going to work on a flower today, the bigger one that's actually open, not just the flower bud that I worked on last time. And yeah, again, not working diagonally, working following the colors or the color flow method. So still trying to avoid, of course, closing in on all four sides. 2 to 3 is what I aim for, but not all four. Yeah, so we sold the truck. Yeah, and actually what happened was my husband decided to ask around at some of the other dealerships to see what they would be willing to give us. And one of them was willing to give us pretty much what we were hoping to get for it. So we just went, yeah, that's way less hassle than trying to find a private buyer. So we sold it that day. Yeah. So I got to be the last one to drive it. Yeah. Of course, we had to take 2 vehicles to the dealership so my husband could drive me back. But yeah, I'm so glad that is done. So much less stress. Yeah, like we did have a couple people who were interested who would have been able to or willing to pay a little bit more, but yeah, we just said, you know, it can fall through and it's just so much easier to just go to the dealership, you know, you hand them the keys, they hand you a check, you're done, you know, sign paper just to transfer the title over and you were finished. And so yeah, we decided to go that route. So then now we're looking for something to buy that will meet the needs. So right now kiddo's borrowing my car when I don't need it. While we try to find something for him. Yeah, he wants a manual, but you know, like we said, when you buy used, yeah, it depends what's available. You get what you get. So yeah, we're hoping to find something more local. Like we may have to go look in the next big city over, but would prefer not to if we don't have to, obviously. Yeah. Yeah, my husband found a Jeep that looked good, but then, yeah, the amount of money they wanted for it was like, yeah, that's more than we paid for my Element. We're not doing that. So, yeah. Just got myself set up again here. I was working on Firefly yesterday, and I said, yeah, after I finish my 2 pieces that are on 18 count, I don't think I'm going to do 18 count again. I can do it, but I find that I accidentally pierce the fabric in the wrong place more often than I do on 14. I think because, of course, I use 2 strands on both, it is tighter on 18 count, obviously, because the squares are smaller. And so, yeah, I kind of lose time because I have to keep on unthreading my needle, pulling the thread out to get it properly situated. So that annoys me. And yeah, I have lots of wall space, so it's okay if my pieces are big. I don't mind. So I think I'm going to stick with 14. Plus, I still have like half of a bolt left to use up. So that way I don't have to buy any more fabric because, yeah, I still have enough for 3 more pieces. Plus the Deer Creek, that was the one that I messed up with this one when I started and used the wrong color for 10,000 stitches before it was caught. So So really I have enough fabric for 4 more big pieces, plus a few smaller ones if I wanted to. But I don't really do small projects anymore. They're all huge. As you have all seen, if you have seen any of my update videos, yeah, and I hold them out, they are big. Yeah, nothing but admiration for people who work on the super tiny counts, but it is definitely not for me. Yeah, like I've seen some where people are working on 40 count, like my gosh. Yeah, I'm not interested in having to use magnifiers. That is definitely not for me. Yeah, so the color ended up kind of outlining here where the flower is going to be. We're going to start adding pinks next pretty soon. Couple sort of stitches of blue right left at this edge here, or left to do at this edge here, but ooh. Oh dear me. Yeah, I woke up early this morning, couldn't go back to sleep, so ick. Yeah, not a lot of threads parked here anyway, although pretty soon we're going to have them. Yeah, we're going to start adding them. Yeah, that's one thing I like with this modified color flow method is I find I don't have as many live threads at once at a time where I'm working. Yeah, I kind of finish off all of the threads of one color palette before moving on to the next one. Either that or parking them out of my working area and down below the cutoff line, like I did with these ones here. Yeah, so kiddo chose all his courses for next school year, and yeah, he's looking to potentially follow in his dad's footsteps, be broadcast engineer, which is working for a media company. They help keep radio stations on air and all that, so yeah, well, he worked as his dad's assistant last summer for a week, and yeah, he enjoyed it, and my husband said he picked up on the work pretty easily, so I think it could be a good fit for him. 37.52. Okay, I said pink, but actually we're not getting to the pink just yet. So yeah, I can see the color kind of goes here and kind of cuts off here, and we will probably follow that slope there. And then, yeah, we'll build more onto it later. Yeah, kiddo's also taking video game design and programming next year too, to see how he likes that. Well, he loves to play like Minecraft brick rigs and design his own stuff in there, so yeah, I think that's something he would also enjoy. Yeah, I was even considering here going to 16 count, but 14 count is definitely my favorite. Well, it's what I learned on because, you know, most kits that you get start with 14. So that is what I'm most used to. Yeah, there was one lady I saw who worked on like 40 count who said she doesn't even really tie off her threads. She said because the holes are so small, sort of having all the threads in there sort of holds them in place. Because when you have 4 threads going through one hole, yeah, basically the bulk of it is enough to keep it holding it in place, which is, yeah, I don't know if my anxiety would be okay with that. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to follow this curve here. So I'm going to put these couple of stitches in here, and then I'm going to sort of build around them. Actually, I'm going to park that one there for now. But yeah, then I'm going to sort of start to build around those. Oh, I realized I switched projects. I forgot to put my magnets back on my piece here. Oh well. I'll work without them for now. Yeah, usually I have magnets to wrap the threads around it. Then, oh, never mind. They are right here. Yeah, I thought maybe I'd place them where they're too far for me to reach, but no. Actually, here they are. Don't really need 4 right now, but yeah, just kind of move them out of my way if I'm not using them at the moment, but then that means I can use them to sort of manage my threads. Wrap them around, hold my needles. Yeah, wasn't leaving any threaded, so it kind of didn't really matter for now. Yeah, so I finally washed all the mittens and things because I think it is safe now to say that we are done with winter. Haven't had any snow for a while. None in the forecast. It's all rain, so yeah. What little precipitation there is. Yeah, I grew up where it was super rainy. Would find it depressing, but here we don't get rain very often. It's actually kind of nice when we have the first rain after the thaw, and then all the grass perks up and turns green instead of being brown. And washes all that snow mold away. Yeah. It's nasty. It's all the mold spores. They get trapped between the layers of snow as it like melts and freezes and more snow falls and stuff. And then when it all melts, you end up with, it looks like this dust on the grass. And yeah, if you have allergies, it's really nasty stuff you do not want to be inhaling. Like, it won't make you really sick or anything, but it will give you a runny nose and all that. So it's not pleasant. Yeah, I used to have allergies when I was younger, and then I don't really get them. Pollen doesn't really bother me, but yeah, I had one year, I don't know why. I don't know, maybe it was like some different life cycle in the tree or something that made the pollen like more potent that year, but it was, ugh, nasty. I remember we were driving with the windows open, and then you see this like cloud. I was like, oh my gosh, roll up the windows, roll them up. Because you didn't want that in the car because, yeah, sneezing for 5 minutes straight. Ugh. Actually, what I found more annoying was getting the hiccups when I was a kid. I went through this year when I was like 11 or 12 where I got them all the time and like nothing would make them go away. Oh, and sometimes I would have them for hours too, so like it would actually get painful. It wasn't just annoying, it was painful, yeah. said it's like almost, they don't know for sure what causes it, but they think it's almost like some kind of a short circuit almost. And that's why for some people, like getting scared or whatever can sort of reset it or whatever. I don't know. Those things just didn't seem to work for me. Sometimes having a spoon of sugar helps, but sometimes it doesn't. So yeah. I tried the holding my breath, and yeah, I'd hold it till I'd almost pass out. The instant I stopped holding my breath, hiccup again. It's like, so irritating. Ugh. So I have said that I don't make goals, but as I am past 38%, I think I'm safe to say that I will probably get to 40% by the end of this month, barring any unforeseen circumstances. But yeah, like I said, we're planning to do a bunch of renovations this summer, so that is going to throw off my stitching time, of course. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to doing it, although I'm looking forward to having it done. But yeah, actually doing the work, I'm not, not thrilled about, but gotta be done, right? Yeah, so my niece's wedding is this month, and that got me to finally clean out my sort of office slash craft storage room. And yeah, it was one of those, I've been putting it off for months, and when I finally did it, it took me like half an hour. Yeah, I should have just done it, right? But yeah, I said I'll learn nothing from this. That's what I always do. I put things off forever, and then when I finally do them, and I'm anxious about them not being done, but when I finally do them, it was like, oh, that was no big deal. I should have just, just done it. Ugh. Yeah, anyway, it's finished. Yeah, I was surprised. I had to shred some documents before I chucked them for, security reasons. And I put it out for recycling. They refused it. They put a note on it that they don't take shredded paper. And I'm like, but since when? Because, yeah, like, I mean, I looked it up online and they said they can jam the machines and that supposedly cutting it up can, like, weaken the fibers for recycling. I'm like, but don't they cut it up when they recycle it? Like, I don't know. But anyway, but I said, yeah, because when I did a big house purge a few years back, I had like 6 bags of shredded paper and they took it. So I don't know. I guess it's changed since then. But yeah, so my husband said, like, why is there shredded paper in the garbage? And I said, well, because I tried to recycle it and they refused it. So yeah, I said, the next time I'll pack it in to compost bags and compost it. But yeah. Yeah, shredded paper is no fun to deal. No matter how hard you try, it makes a mess everywhere. Yeah. Well, the problem is, even like you put a bag over it, turn it upside down and empty it out, but there's always bits that get stuck and fly everywhere and they get staticky, right? And then, yeah, it's like trying to brush styrofoam bits off of you. It's just, the more you try to remove them, the more they stick. I remember that when I was shredding all those documents a few years ago. And yeah, you had to do it in batches because the shredder would overheat and it would stop working. Yeah. And I had lots and lots of stuff that needed to be destroyed. So yeah. Yeah, I had that at work one time too. They had me shredding a lot of old stuff. And yeah, I'd have to do it for about 15 minutes and then walk away and leave the machine until it cooled down, do something else, and then come back. And yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have a few threads of this color attached. Okay, so yeah, again, I'm gonna do these because I'm gonna fill in all of this before I move on to the next bit there. Well, I said I was going to do pinks, but actually, I still haven't hit any pink. Oh, oh, rats. Yep. And this is why I don't really cross country, because I mess up my count when I do, as you can see, which is what I did. Yeah, I missed one stitch at the top, which threw off everything else. Yeah, I say with my parking, I still miscount sometimes, but not as often, and I generally catch it sooner. So, because I'm not stitching diagonally, I kind of changed it up, so that is why. Okay. Okay, so this, I guess this is one of the petals. It kind of goes all the way, but I'm going to sort of just work out to here, fill in, and then I'll carry on that color again later. So park this for now. Yeah, I guess I could have just done this one earlier, but oh well. I will do it now. So yeah, I'm going to sort of just pick colors that go along these established edges and fill in from there. Yeah, and then we're going to get into the peacock again. And then into his wings. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get into any tail feathers this month. We will see, but yeah, I think just getting close to the tail feathers will sort of be as much as I can manage in a month. So, okay, another blue. 47. So yeah, I won't do this one lone stitch down here because it's not sort of touching anything else. I'll do it when I get there. These I'm going to work because they're against stitches that have already been stitched. I hope these paler colors are showing okay. Find working with this, I also tend to have to stop and start a little less often, which also saves a bit of time. I've seen some where people are extremely disciplined and they only work row by row, but I am not. Okay, those are done. I did not want to thread. Lots of little pieces of this color left over, so I'm going to use them up here. Okay, this should be enough for one more. Oh, wait a minute, what have I done here? No, I did do that right, okay. There's so many of these light colors here. It was mixing me up. Good thing for grid lines. All right. So some people might prefer to leave gaps and use just one long strand, and that's totally fine too, if that is how you would prefer to do it. There isn't a wrong way. Yeah, even they say all of the tops of your crosses should go the same way, but I've seen where some people actually intentionally do them differently. So they did the background with the top going one way, the top of the stitch, and then they did a focal point of the piece with them going the other way, which was kind of cool. Make a different texture. There was someone talking about, could they do sort of tent stitch and do the background and then do the foreground in full cross. I said, well, I actually had a kit that called for that. So yeah, it was like the eagle in the foreground was in full cross, and then the trees in the back were to be done in half cross so that it stood out. I actually never finished that project. Yeah, it is. I started it in high school. It is still sitting in my craft closet. Well, the problem is too, I left it for so long that I think the fabric got stained from my having touched it, and yeah, from having held it in the hoop, because I didn't use grime guards. And yeah, I don't know if that will come out. So, and it's not a full coverage, and so I just kind of, yeah, it was a dimensions kit. Also, their pattern was harder to follow. I didn't realize when I bought it that it was all just different colored symbols, and there was no symbols, just different colored boxes, which sometimes was kind of hard to see. Yeah. So maybe one day I will finish it, who knows. But I think if you do any kind of craft, you're always going to have unfinished objects, I think. Unless you're really, really finicky and determined to finish everything, yeah. I think there's always going to be abandoned projects along the way. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So like I said, close in on 3 sides, but not on 4. Which means I will also do those 2 there. Park that there. Okay, so now we'll do sort of a bunch in a row. Now that we've kind of done the edges around it. On the pattern keeper, this almost looks like a gray, but it's actually more like a light, very, very light mauve color when I look at the thread. Yeah, pattern keepers mock-ups are pretty good, but you can never see precisely what something looks like stitched up, I think, until it's actually been stitched. The mock-up is more there to make sure it didn't really mess up and make somebody's face green or something. I mean, I guess unless you wanted it to be that. Yeah, it was funny. I was reading about Star Trek, and the very first pilot that wasn't aired called The Cage. And at one point, one of the characters, a girl's green skin, And apparently in post-production, they did not realize that she was supposed to be green, and they were trying to fix it because they thought it was a problem with, yeah, the lighting or something. It was like, no, actually she was meant to be green. Yeah, it ended up being used later. So it was Captain Pike, and that never got made into the series. And then they did another pilot with the crew with Kirk, which is what got made, and they ended up reusing that footage in an episode later. Where it was like Captain Pike telling the story of a mission that he went on, and then they used the footage that way. It was funny. There was an episode of CSI they made fun of that. One of the technicians, they made him like a fan of, a sci-fi show. They didn't say which one, but obviously it was meant to be, like Star Trek. And yeah, like he was in a shirt that was like strategically ripped, and and he was a bald guy, so they gave him a toupee and stuff. And yeah, it was funny. They had one where one of the other techs, he imagines her, and I think they made her skin green. I'm not sure, but they had her dancing like in the episode, and then yeah, she leans in and whispers in his ear, Hodges, you're on fire. And then he looks down, oh my gosh, because yeah, he was using the Bunsen burner, and then he started daydreaming and lost track of what he was doing, and he set his sleeve on fire. It was so funny. Yeah, and it was funny. It showed he goes to a convention, and they're selling a prop, and he says, $400 for this thing, what do you think? I'm stupid? I'm not going to buy this, And then next thing you see, he's walking away and he's carrying the prop. So clearly he got suckered into buying it anyway. And the guy selling it was Ronald D. Moore. So yeah, they gave him a little cameo in that. So that was fun. I don't know if they credited him, but I recognized him. So yeah. Yeah, he had a cameo in the end of Battlestar Galactica. He's a guy reading a newspaper. And he also had one in the finale of Deep Space Nine. He was one of the guests at the lounge. Yeah. And I think one of the other producers was his too. And yeah, it was pretty cool. So. Oh dear. I think, yeah, I did it again. This one is loose. Okay, I'm going to have to, actually, I think if I do this and go back down, that should fix it. Nope, it did not. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just going to put this here for a second, and I'm going to, yeah, sometimes that works, but sometimes it doesn't. So I'm just going to see if I can find a piece of thread. Want a light colored one, obviously, because this is a lighter colored area. Okay. Yeah, occasionally either stitching around it causes it to get pulled loose, or sometimes I just didn't pull it snug enough when I was originally stitching with it, and I did not notice until sort of other stitches were done, and then it's really hard to tighten it up. It is a big pain. So I do this. So yeah, I just catch the loop on a spare loop, pull it back down until it's taut, and then just tie it off like you normally would any working thread. And then you can see the stitches nicely snug and no more slack is showing. All fixed, and didn't have to rip back because, yeah, we all hate frogging, right? Yeah, it is not fun. Yeah, undoing it always takes way more than doing it, right? Yeah, I said I've done that with knitting lace, and then you have to sort of unknit back to your mistake if it's in the same row, and oh, yeah. Forming each stitch is quick. undoing each stitch is such a pain. Oh. Yeah, actually, when I do lace knitting, I put in lifelines, they call them, where you take a needle and actually draw a scrap piece of thread through your live stitches at a certain point, and then keep on knitting, and later you can pull that thread out. But if you have made a mistake and say you put in a lifeline every 10 lines, then you don't have to rip out the whole thing. You can only rip back as far as that line and it will stop it. So yeah, a lot of people put them in, say, every, 6 or 10 or whatever rows, and then that way if they make a mistake, well, they don't lose days and days, just one repeat or whatever of knitting, which is much easier. 63. Yeah, I did that once when I made my sister and her husband for Halloween. They were going to be dressed as gnomes, and they wanted gnome hats if I could knit them for them. And I said, sure. And the picture, of course, their hats are kind of like this weird, not a perfect dome shape. They're sort of bent forward and stuff. And so to get that, I had to use a lot of short row shaping and stuff. And yeah, so I had a lot of lifelines in there in case it didn't work and I had to pull it out and start at a certain point again. But yeah, I made notes and it actually worked out okay. They were happy with them, so yeah. Maybe one day I should write up the pattern so I could sell it. Oh, look at that. We got a little knot in here. Darn. I hate when that happens. Okay. It's only a couple inches from the end, so we're just going to trim it right off. Yeah, I was saying about I don't like working on 18 count. That, yeah, I found that I also end up making more knots. I think because, again, I'm using 2 strands for that as well, and so it's tighter than on the 14 count. And I find the friction of it kind of makes it form more knots, I find. There was that frustration as well. So okay, so ecru. There was a lot of this used in the beginning of this project in that cloud in the corner, but now not as much. I'm sure we'll get more of it once I get into the white part of his wings later on in this pass. Yeah, we're gonna get some more of his chest, the bright blue, and then there's going to be some brown feathers, and then there's a bit of the white of the wing feathers. Oh yeah, and we may get the top of the other bird's head too, is in among those white bits, so we will see. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to get to tail feathers this month. It'll be next month. It's a pretty safe bet. I'm going to do a second thread of this color here. So yeah, one thread will go this way, the other one will go the other way. Ooh. Oh dear. Yeah, so I can't remember how many stitches I started. I think I was at 110 at the beginning of last month, and I got to 117, so yeah. It was over 2%, so that was nice. But yeah, like I say, it also always depends on the level of detail in the area I'm stitching to, obviously. places with lots of different colors are going to go slower than big blocks of color. Yeah, my challenge in big blocks of color is to not overdo it. I have done that before. Stitched too much, and then my arms were burning. It was not fun. Yeah, I said I did that once where I managed to do 2,000 stitches in 2 days. So I did like 1,300 one day and like 700 the other day. But then after that, my arms were burning and I couldn't stitch for like 4 days. So I'm like, I didn't really get ahead. I should have paced myself better. Yeah. Yeah, and I found I did a day where I did like 1,000 stitches, but there was a lot of color changes, and I found that it was enough breaks from changing colors that my arms were okay. So yeah, I always have to be aware of that too. Looks like I've got a fuzzy or something here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Use this one for these sort of stray stitches, and I'll start a new one for the big block again. Okay. Let's go with 3. I'll go 2, and actually I think I should bring this one out. Yeah, onto my tray. There's a fair bit of it. Yeah, when I was working on Firefly, my working tray was not very colorful. Black and super dark browns and navy blues, but on this one it gets very colorful. Pinks and greens and blues. Yeah, it's drew me to this piece. I like how bright and colorful it is. start another thread on the other side. I find when I switch from my 14 to an 18 count piece, I have to sort of readjust and relearn, but when I switch back, yeah, there's like no adjustment period. 14 is just feels so comfortable to me. Yeah, there's one member in the Facebook Heaven and Earth Designs group. He does his on 11 count, so yeah, they're even more massive. They look amazing though. But yeah, he's had some framed where he was holding it. It came up like past his waist because yeah, pieces are ginormous, but yeah, they're lovely. Yeah, if people say like they worry that the work will look pixelated if they do it on a, you know, bigger count, but it's like, no, it's the exact same number of pixels. It's just the whole project will look bigger. But yeah, you're recreating it from the same pattern. It will look the same. Just the finished size will be different. Yeah, I'm gonna probably have 2 strands of this as well. I can tell right now. Again, they're kind of scattered around. We will see. I sort of often decide as I stitch, and sometimes I think I'm going to need separate strands, but then as I do the work I discover that actually there was a way I didn't need 2 strands. Okay, another new color. Ah, white this time. Yeah, which again I used a ton of, but there's not as much left. The rest of this piece. Yeah, the top part of this project was definitely lighter colors than the bottom part of it. Yeah. Heaven and Earth Designs lists white as 1 after my disaster of using 01 instead of 1, which is the white tin, which is a light gray. I went through and edited my legend on Pattern Keeper, and everywhere it said what 1, I changed it to actually say white. Because yeah, it's kind of weird that they can't, because I'm pretty sure the ecru says ecru, so I don't think they're prevented from using letters. I don't know. Yeah, I do know they were talking about using the Krennic, which is 032, which is a white, but 032 in DMC is a like lavender color. And so yeah, they had to tell people be careful not to mix those up. Yes, because they said to change the database so that it would actually list it as a separate thread was a lot of work. So yeah, because they said they used that to give it sparkle to some pieces. The Deer Creek calls for it, but I changed it to the winter white, the B5200, which is kind of a more shiny white than just the standard white. But I didn't want to use that because they said, a lot of people said it's a big pain to stitch with. I just don't want the aggravation, so yeah. Oops. I can get frustrated enough with threads knotting and twisting and stuff that, yeah, I don't think I need to be adding to that. Look at that, silly me. Straight up and down. That will not work. Yeah, so this is kind of the max number of needles I try to have in an area. There's about 8 of them. I find I can handle that many, but more than that it starts tangling. Yeah, I have worked up to 15, but I found I was spending so much time trying to keep them from tangling that it was more work than just threading the needle again. Darn. Yes, I find sort of alternating between the colors where I only do 1 or 2 stitches and then a bunch in a row kind of helps protect my arms from getting hurt. Actually, I think I will also extend that and do those 2 stitches since they're right along that edge there. So yeah, a little bit of closing in here, but still find if it's only on 3 sides and not 4, I can keep it looking fairly neat. Okay, I have to start another thread there. Yep, okay. Yeah, a lot of color flows going this way in this pattern. I decided to quit fighting it. Yeah, I actually turned my diagonal lines off on Pattern Keeper because I really wasn't using them anymore. Okay. Let's see how long that piece is and what I'm going to do with it. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do, yeah, somewhat, I think I'm going to get another piece to do that one there. Oh, goodness. Almost knocked my ends jar onto the floor. That would have been really loud. I would not want to do that. And could potentially break it because it is glass, although I find mason jars are pretty sturdy. I'm trying to think if I broke any. I think the only one I actually broke one time was I was lowering it into the canner and it broke in half. Yeah, I was left holding the neck of the jar. It must have had a weak spot in it. Yeah, and the temperature difference of putting it into the, because I was reprocessing a jar that hadn't sealed properly, and I didn't heat up the contents of it. I put it in, even though you're supposed to, but I was being lazy and taking a shortcut, and yeah, that made the whole jar break in half, which is why you don't do that. Yeah, which meant then the water was full of juice, and then all my jars that I processed in that batch were sticky. Ugh. Yeah, I had to clean them off before I could store them away. Okay, if that was threaded, it's not anymore. Yeah, like I said, when I get to this many needles, it starts to get a bit hinky to deal with. Then I'm going to park this one, and I'm going to unthread it. So I'm not going to get to it for a while as I'm filling in all this other colors here. Okay, let's do one for that there. So yeah, when I start to get sort of too many live needles, that's often what I'll do. I'll see which ones aren't going to be used for a while, and those are the ones that I will unthread. Yeah, this color is going to have lots of different threads because it is scattered all over the place. So, shall we stitch to 200 completed before we quit? Why not? tie off some threads here, so I will get some needles back. That one. This one's a little longer, so I'm actually going to carry it over here and do those two up against that edge there. Might as well. Yeah, because I kind of, if I finished off the thread, it would be sort of almost long enough to do a stitch or two, but not quite. And I hate wasting in between threads like that. So like I probably didn't need it because there's another thread part there that's long enough to do these stitches, but might as well. Okay, so if I do these four, that will push us over the 200 done. Actually just gonna there, set that aside. Well, if I'm going to go over 200, I might as well do those two stitches as well while I'm at it. There we go, 203. Yeah, pretty happy with that progress. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.